All right. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Here we are with the Pondcast episode 54. Um, so, since a bunch of people are going to ask before we get to the end, we normally skip August because of the TSA conference. So, our next scheduled hangout is going to be on September 9th. Because we don't do Labor Day holidays either. So put that one on your calendars. September 9th will be our next episode of the podcast. Of course, I'm just seeing this now thanks to the little thing that popped up here for me. We're going to have to learn some new technology before we have that one because Hangouts on Air is apparently going away starting the beginning of next month. So podcast episode 55 will give us a whole new experience, apparently. All right. Maybe that's a good thing because things weren't working that great tonight.
Hence our late start.
That's right. So we apologize for getting started here at 7:30 instead of 7, but we're here. And so we've got Ralph Till with us again tonight. For whatever reason, we have no video of Ralph, but we have great audio of Ralph. So we're going to talk with Ralph about basically what's changed since the last time he was with us when we were talking a lot about Egyptian tortoises and a bunch of the other cool things that Ralph has had going on. So always, we've got Anthony and Kevin with us, and I'm going to let Anthony steer the show for a little while here. So Anthony, take it away and introduce our good friend Ralph.
Sounds good. Sounds good. And I have to say, it's okay that Ralph is here only in audio because he's got a beautiful radio voice that you'll all be able to hear shortly. And I was actually looking at it, Steve. It's been 2.5 years since we had Ralph on the show. Doesn't seem that long. 2.5 years. That's crazy.
Time flies. I know.
Yeah. So he's here with us again. Last time we had him on was March 2017. So we're really excited to have him with us. Ralph is, as Steve alluded to, one of the world's best. Ralph is going to hate me for saying this, but one of the world's best Egyptian tortoise breeders. We talk about him all the time on the show. He often sends us notes during the show. He's an avid podcast viewer and has lots of opinions about how we could do things better. Right, Ralph?
Yes, sir.
Always never scared to give me his opinion, which I think is awesome, and we're going to hear his opinions tonight too.
Well, whether you like it or not, right?
That's right. Whether I ask for it or not, you're always willing to give me the your opinions, which is awesome. So we want to get into that a little bit today. So how you doing, Ralph?
I'm doing terrific. Life is good.
Your
nice
voice makes me happy.
Sunny Florida. It's a brisk 94 today.
Oh my gosh, brisk 94! You're too much. I was just going to say how much I appreciate you and how happy your voice makes me, and then you reminded me that you're in Florida. Although it does feel very Florida-ish up here. That's why I have my shades on. Very Connecticut casual today.
Were you at the park?
No, I'm at my hotel. I'm living in a hotel right now between houses. On the last podcast, we talked about moving, and I'm still in that move. So here I am at my place of residence for over 5 weeks, the Holiday Inn in Wallingford, Connecticut. It's beautiful. The Homewood Suites, I mean. Not the Holiday Inn. I made that up. Hotels that start with an H. I don't know where I am. I just drive here. I don't have to think about it. Autopilot. There he is. Kev, how you doing, Kev?
I'm great. How are you today?
Everyone, Kevin Minto's been training to become a cage fighter. So if you see anything different about him, he's been 6 hours a day in the gym. You can tell.
Wow.
You look great, man. You look great.
That's all untrue, however.
You look terrific. You've got a little chest hair popping. I like your style right now, man.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh, crazy.
No cage fighting for me. I was telling Anthony, I think it'd be fun, but I'm way too scared to be hurt, so I don't want to do that.
Oh, he's sensitive.
Yeah.
He's sensitive.
Not everybody be like 6'10", and a burly dude.
400 pounds. You could say it.
I don't guesstimate when numbers get that high,
Yeah, right. What's the point? So, Ralph.
Yes.
Talk to me. Talk to us.
Oh, and hi, Ralph. Sorry about that.
Kevin, how are you? Huh?
Good, sir. How are you today?
Sorry, we don't have any video here, but
I'll pull up a picture of you on Facebook so I can look at that while we're talking.
There you go.
Good idea. Send it to Steve so he can put it up for everyone to see.
Not the post office picture, though, right?
Yeah, right. People don't know that Ralph is not the prettiest guy to look at, so he asked us to just keep him all audio tonight.
Whoa.
Whoa, oh, that hurt.
Just kidding. Just kidding.
Went a little bit too far there.
I'm
I'll
sorry.
remember that the next time you ask for a favor. You know?
I'm sorry. Forget that. Forget what I said. Look at me right now. You kidding me? Anywho. Turtles and tortoises. Mostly tortoises with you. Mostly the latter with you, Ralph. Talk to us about the Egyptian tortoise business. How are things going these days?
Wow, awesome year so far.
What makes it so awesome?
Well, I've been able to breed. I've had 25 hatchlings so far. How's that?
Wow.
That's pretty darn good.
My group this year so far has produced 51 eggs, and 51 eggs, 25 have hatched, and it looks like I'm going to take a guess and say 10 more that I think should hatch, which would be a pretty outstanding year, I think, by anybody's standards.
Is that a record for you in terms of eggs and or hatchlings?
For hatchlings, my record is 27. So we're knocking on that door quite easily. Yeah. Mm-hmm. And for the most eggs, significantly, the most eggs I ever had was 42. So
that's
and interestingly enough, my plan has always been to diversify the group, trying to create unrelated groups. So some of the challenges are coming up with different males and different females that are unrelated, and breeding them, raising them up till they're of adequate size, and then breed them. And generally, a first-year female only produces a few eggs, and generally they're duds. So far this year, I've had good success with some first-time females, and they produced viable eggs that have hatched. So,
what do you think is the key? Why more this year? What do you think?
Well, I think I have this theory that I've kind of adopted, that I keep all my animals separate. I keep them in individual enclosures, which, it makes for a lot more work, but the idea is that they live in a stress-free environment. And I'm convinced that stress is paramount to keeping probably turtles and tortoises. You keep them in a stress-free environment, they can produce more. They're not subjected to bullying. They're not subjected to trying to find a place to hide. I just think it relaxes them. I don't know if that sounds corny, but it seems to work. So
I completely agree. I think that stress is a huge killer that's often overlooked. Like, people will harp on things, and we've talked about this on podcasts in the past, but people will harp on things like UVB and the amount of space that animals have. They need more space. More space is better. Well, it's not just that. Stress is a huge factor, and one that you can't really measure. It's my belief that stress is a huge factor. But it's not something that's measurable. People will say, well, I had an animal and it seemed to be doing really well, and then just one day it just died. Stressed out animals can be eating and doing their thing, so to speak. But
one of the things
you can't measure
that I monitor quite closely, by having all the animals in individual enclosures. And the way I have it set up, I can see them easily. It's not like I'm climbing around boxes and books and stuff to get to them. They're quite accessible. And I can tell if an animal is not eating. I can tell if an animal has a loose stool, for instance. Why did that happen? And by having it separate, I can focus on one animal and not worry about the other 6 or 8 that it's housed with. It cuts down on any kind of medical bills that I may ever encounter, although it's far and few between. all related to stress. Everything is related to stress.
That's terrific. Yeah, I agree too. Like, just to see who's eating what too. If you put them in a group, and then you can't spend every minute with them, how do you know that all 8 animals that were kept together all ate their share of food?
Yeah, exactly. And it. I mean, I have seen firsthand, especially with yearlings, little hatchlings. It's not so bad. You keep them all together. But as they get to be about 1.5 2 years old, that's when the stronger ones, they start to prevail. And if you don't watch them carefully, they will push out the smaller one, push them out of the way, and they won't get to eat. Ultimately get weak and perish.
Right.
Knock on wood, I've never lost a hatchling.
That was awesome. You could hear the sound effect in the background. That's terrific.
Yeah.
Never lost a hatchling. That's amazing.
No. That's almost 100 hatchlings now.
Wow. That's incredible.
Yep.
As you say almost, I know you count. You're one of the most calculated people I've ever met. So
yeah,
I
know the exact count, but I'm waiting for this year's results.
So you can't even tell us yet. Okay, got it. Fair enough. Noted.
I have it all written down. So that's another thing, keeping records. I mean, I have hatch dates. I keep a log on which animal, as far as mating, breeding, or whatever, which male is with which female, the time. So I know that maybe 30 days after a successful breeding, she'll be starting to look to nest. So I can be ready for that. I keep the days the eggs are laid. I mark them all, so I know when they should hatch. And this year, I actually tried something a little different with some of them, and I boosted my incubating temperatures in one incubator. And I'm hoping that it produces more females. Cut the incubation time from an average of, say, 88 days down to about 80, 81 days. That's an observation just by raising the temperature by 3 degrees in the incubator.
Very interesting. Very interesting. So if I could just rein it back in for anyone who just joined us a little late, we're here with Ralph Till. Ralph is here with audio only, which is fine because he's got a beautiful radio voice that we all are enjoying. Ralph is one of the premier Egyptian tortoise breeders, and that's the species that we're talking about right now, Testudo kleinmanni. Is that how you pronounce it? Is that how you would pronounce it, Ralph?
Yeah, kleinmanni, yeah.
Kleinmanni, that was different than what I said. I said kleinmanni or whatever.
Isn't there's not an N in there?
Yeah, there's
an N in there.
Kleinmanni. But I've never heard the N pronounced. Kleinmanni. There is an N, yes.
Yeah. So
here it is. Here it is. It's happening. He can't control himself.
I believe the pronunciation of the German name is Kleinmann, and so that would mean it's Kleinmann, and then you just add the I or E depending on which Latin school you want.
Okay.
So really, it would be Kleinmann E or Kleinmann I.
He said, "Okay."
Yeah.
You win.
Well, I'm just that's how it's supposed to work. So, lots of people pronounce Latin names wrong, and that's the way it is. And it's no big deal.
How about Egyptians?
Yep.
Yeah, but I like to let people know, because just to give a little foreshadowing, I just listened to a snake podcast the other day. That was lovely, and like a boyfriend girlfriend team, which I showed to my wife afterwards. Like, hey, this could be something that's really cool. But anyway, when I was listening to it, like, I didn't know a lot of what they were talking about. Like, they say like carpets or corns or balls. Like, I know what they're talking about. But there's a lot of terminology and some of the things they're talking about that's just second nature to them that I didn't necessarily know. So I think it's important just to give the little recap when we can, when we talk about things just in the scientific name, actually bring it back to the common name as well, so that we could try to keep everybody on the same page as best we can. So just so you know, Ralph, why I was being a little extra, a little a bit of a pain in the butt. And if you're wondering, this interesting back and forth we have between Steve and Ralph, where I like to believe they just got in each other's nerves for a second. They didn't really. I'm making something out of nothing. But we started a half hour late because we were trying to get Ralph on to the broadcast. And Steve was the one who was doing that while Kevin and I just chatted on the side. So I expect both of them to be extremely frustrated with one another. And that's okay. We're going to be okay with that. We're going to make it work. How you feeling, Ralph? You feeling frustrated?
Yeah. No. Life is good, man.
He almost said yes to the frustrated part. Did you see that?
Nah.
Freudian slip. Yeah.
Get frustrated part.
It's okay. Everyone's frustrated. I walk around all day with a pit in my stomach.
I'm not a computer guy, you know.
Developed an ulcer.
I'm a hands-on. I can build stuff and all that. But when it comes to scientific jazz here, I stay away from it. I avoid it at all costs.
Those dang computer calculators.
Yeah. I wish I could get my flip phone back. At least it worked all the time.
That's awesome.
Rob, what company do you use?
Sorry?
What phone company do you use?
Oh, jeez.
Phone company? Oh, gosh. AT&T.
All right, so they probably have a flip phone you can get.
I still have a flip phone.
Oh, my gosh.
You just
I gotta
take
go.
the phone back.
My mom's calling.
I have it in a drawer.
Gotcha. Okay.
You can't see me, so I can fumble through the drawer here. Unless I throw it out.
Literally, this is so great with the sound effects. I don't know how you're doing it, but the sound effects are perfect. You said knock on wood, and it went.
I'm just rooting through the drawer, my junk drawer here. I'm actually in the house, sitting at my at the desk in the office.
Yeah, me too. Let me open the door.
Yeah.
I get it. That was the door opening sound.
This is where I keep the incubators inside for anybody who wants to know. I know a guy that had some incubators out in his garage, and it was like 99 degrees in his garage, and he couldn't understand why the incubator wouldn't keep the eggs at like 87 or something, you know?
That's terrific.
It took a little bit of explaining, and I couldn't believe that. I really don't have to explain this, do I? But
That's terrific. I love it.
yeah. So I had hard-boiled eggs, the poor guy. But so be it. So what else do you want to know? You still
Go ahead,
there?
Kev. Did you have a question, Kev?
I do, yeah. So, and I apologize if this was asked like 2.5 years ago, and we're bringing it back up. But one, how long do you usually keep your hatchlings for? And then two, do you have like a wait list that people get on? Because, as Anthony puts it, you're the premier Egyptian tortoise breeder.
The first question is, how long do I keep them? I never release anything until it's a minimum of 8 weeks old.
Okay.
All right. That's an absolute minimum. Yes, I do have a list of people.
Okay.
I only ever once placed an ad several years ago back in the turtle. It just got killed here on Facebook. What was it? Turtle and Tortoise Classifieds or something like that.
Yep.
And I placed one ad, and for one day, and I got like 10 million responses.
Okay.
And that's
He's exaggerating.
That was only 2 million. But
Yeah. I wanted to make sure Kev knew.
yeah, but
Yeah.
and every now and then I still get one from the ad.
Okay.
But that's the only time I've ever advertised, and I don't have any problem moving them out.
Cool.
I have more problems with picking out or selecting buyers. I guess I'm probably a bit of a jerk. I've even told people that, you know.
Yeah,
I'd
definitely.
rather go to little kids. And, you know, I hate seeing these people that I just bought a redfoot, you know. What do you feed it?
Mhm.
Oh, come on, man. If you're asking that about a redfoot, what are you going to do with a kleinmanni?
Kleinmanni.
Kleinmanni, yeah.
Kleinmanni.
Yeah.
Kleinman.
Maybe I'm a little bit too attached to these things, but I just hate to see that. I hate to see people, what do I feed it? They set it up in a 20-gallon lawn with a 250-watt bulb over it and on rabbit pellets, and wonder why it's all wrinkly and dried up.
Wrinkly. Yeah, I'm sorry to laugh, but yeah. So Kevin asked you some questions about that he thought maybe we had talked about 2.5 years ago. We probably did just touch on it a little bit, but which is great. But the main reason why I wanted to have you on the show was to talk about things that you've had in the works since then. Now,
Sure.
You've bred some new species for the first time since then. You have acquired some new species for the first time since then. And for everyone who's listening, and we'll get into that a little bit, that's a big deal for Ralph. I'm giving like a little rundown of what we're going to talk about for the rest of the show here. But that's a really big deal for him to acquire anything new and be working on anything other than the Egyptians or the kleinmanni, for sure. And then also wanted to talk to you about the educational work that you're doing and the work that you're doing to develop the Tampa Bay Turtle and Tortoise Society.
Oh, you
Right?
can't see me. Yeah, I was going to hold up my sign, and you can't see me.
Can't see it. You're going to have to email everyone who watches afterwards.
All right.
Send them an individual.
If you send us a picture of your sign, we can put it on Facebook.
Let's do that.
All right. I
Or
can
we
do that.
share the screen and show it right now too.
If it's on your screen, but I think he was going to hold it up. It's a physical sign, I think.
Me too.
I was just going to hold it up, but
Can you share your screen if you're not? Can we technical question? Timeout.
Yeah.
Well, but it's not on his screen, Anthony. It's a physical sign he was going to hold in front of the camera.
No, I was gonna have him take a picture of the
That's what I'm
What's
doing.
Steve doing? Steve's throwing stuff now.
Oh, and me.
Oh, is it Ralph?
All right.
Sound
I'm
effects?
sorry. I was just taking a. Oh,
Yeah.
Jesus. I was
He's a
busy
mess
taking
over there.
picture.
What are you doing? Mumbling now too?
No. I was trying to take a picture and talk at the same time.
Oh gosh, this is why did we decide to try to add more technology to this? You don't have to do anything.
And then work my phone, which I hate.
Yeah, don't do that. Don't whip out the flip phone right now and try to take pictures with it. Just relax.
Okay, so the question was, what projects do I have going on right now?
No, let's start with the beginning. So the beginning, I talked about some breeding. So, and I also want to make fun of you for something on the air too.
Uh-oh.
Well, I hope you don't mind. I didn't ask you about this ahead of time, but talk to me about star tortoises and Herman's tortoises.
Well, I had a pair of Indian stars that I raised up, and they actually grew up real nice. A lot of effort down here because they don't tolerate cold and damp, so I had to bring them inside in the winter. But ultimately, they laid eggs. She laid eggs, and then I sold her.
Talk about the process. I mean, I swear, I've said this before. So I've visited Ralph several times down in Florida, and I will never bring my wife there, ever.
Uh-oh.
Because there is definitely something in the water, because every single animal that goes into your house ends up being gravid like immediately and having the best.
So
breaking records constantly.
So the
okay, guess what? I've got a star tortoise with 69 eggs. Oh my gosh! Wow.
The star laid some eggs, and then I had a couple of spotted turtles, and they laid 10 eggs. And
yeah, within like 2 weeks.
I put the eggs in a little cup and set them on in the tortoise room, and in like 2 months they all hatched. I couldn't believe it.
I forgot about that too.
So I had 10 little baby spotted turtles I didn't know what to do with. And then I had some Herman's tortoises that I got from Chris Leone and raised up. And they It was a 1.2 group. And in one summer, the two of them produced 42 eggs. and which is, Chris says that's kind of unheard of. I can't argue with him. I have no idea. But
it's insane. It's absolutely insane.
And out of those 42 eggs, I mean, it caught me off guard. There were just eggs everywhere. And I think maybe 8 or 9 of them hatched, which I thought was okay.
Yeah, it's a good start for an animal that's just getting started at producing. That's pretty wild.
Yeah, and I have a pancake tortoises, and she laid eggs. And then and I have some spider tortoises, and they laid eggs. So I got eggs coming from everywhere, which is a good thing, right?
Definitely. That's awesome. That's
Yeah.
really awesome. Kevin, do you know that we can still see you?
Yeah, I know.
Okay, good. I just wasn't sure if you knew that you were taking us on a field trip right now.
No, this is on
But
purpose.
interesting dilemma that I had, at least for me, was when the stars and the spotteds and hermits and pancakes and what did I say else? Oh, the spider. I mean, everybody started laying eggs at the same time.
That's
And-
horrible. Feel really bad for you.
Yeah, but I wasn't ready for it. I was just totally overwhelmed. I had eggs. I had like 110 eggs or something from, plus Egyptian eggs, you know. So I had eggs everywhere. And I'm like, you know, I had them stacked on top of each other. It was, I mean, it's just kind of scary. But it taught me a lesson, and I've always kind of said that you should only keep what you can manage. Kind of philosophy I've always had.
And that was most of what our conversation in 2007 was, for sure.
Yeah.
And we made videos in the past as well,
Yep.
talking to you about such things, and that's who you are. You are the epitome of that approach.
You can manage a certain amount properly, and so I got to a point accidentally or just unaware where I found myself almost overwhelmed. And I think the Egyptian production suffered a little bit as a result of that. And so that's when I made a decision. You know, that's when I divested myself of all that and just focus on the two species. Now I have the Egyptians and the spiders. I got rid of everything else pretty much, except for the pancakes. They're cool.
They are cool. So here's what I want to do with you
I
next.
just have a pair of them. So
I'm going to talk to you about, and this is what I love about Ralph. Everyone, I already mentioned this, that he is very, very open and honest and gives you your opinion, but gives you his honest opinion whether you ask for it or not. And here I am, I'm going to ask for it. So now he's going to have to give it to me, which is, Ralph, I'm going to give you his.
so serious.
This is very serious. This is very serious. I want to know, I'm going to give you a species, and I want to know a species that you've kept, and I want to know the pros and cons within 20 seconds. And I'll both within 20 seconds.
Is this like a test?
Yes, this is a test.
All right. Shoot.
Okay, you ready?
Yeah.
Okay, pros and cons of working with them, keeping them. Okay, this is not natural history or their situation in the wild or whatever. This is just as a keeper, as a conservation-minded keeper who wants to do everything they can to try to help a species situation through developing assurance colonies and programs, which is what all of us here right now try to do, and a lot of our viewers try to do. I'd like to know pros and cons within 20 seconds for each species. You got to get to both the pros and the cons. Okay?
Go ahead.
Okay. Egyptian tortoise.
Small, easy to manage once you have them established. The hell was that? And very rewarding, very gratifying, and they're just cool. They're just cool little guys. They remind me of little tiny mini Galapagos tortoises.
So what's your con? That sound like a lot of pros.
I have no con. I can't think
Oh
of.
my gosh!
I'm sorry. I have no con with working with them.
Oh my gosh! So why? Okay, so but not just for you. Why is it? So what about the person who has money but doesn't know what they're doing?
It kind of says it all. They don't know what they're doing.
Yeah,
So
but if they're all perfect, then everyone then we should be
No,
convincing everyone to
me,
save their money and buy those.
are they a first-time animal? No.
Why not?
A hatchling weighs 5 grams. It's the size of a nickel. I mean, people, they could kill them easily. And
Okay.
and there's a certain husbandry. There are certain husbandry needs that they have to have when they're little like that a lot of people just don't understand. Like I joked earlier, put them in a 20-gallon tank with a 250-watt bulb and put them on rabbit pellets and feed them romaine lettuce and wonder why they don't grow.
Right. Awesome. Okay, we did really good with that, really well. After I made you come up with a con, and it took about 3 minutes. So we're going to shave a little bit off. That was about 9 times too long, but that's okay. 20 seconds times 3 minutes divided by 20 seconds.
All right.
9 times.
All right. I get the gist.
Yeah, but I started with the most difficult for you because we're not going to get you to be quiet about Egyptian tortoises. That's why you're on the show.
Okay.
So, spotted turtle.
It takes me back to my youth. I grew up in northern New Jersey, and it was just a blast to find spotted turtles. The con, they're hard to find now, and they're endangered. They're threatened, and really, unless you really know how to take care of aquatics, you should stay away from them.
Okay, that's not where I thought you were going to go with it, but here's my Ralph Till answer for spotted turtles. They could be very prolific. Obviously, got 10 eggs in the first 3 weeks that I kept a pair of spotted turtles, but it'd be tough in Florida to keep them cool enough.
It's taken me a little bit while to figure that one out, and I've actually come up with a system that works a lot better. Is it still warm? Sure, it's still warm. It's not 72 degrees, but I have them positioned at such a place in such a manner that maybe high of 82 or 83 water temperature.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right, good. Next one, pancake tortoises.
Super cool. Most unique looking tortoise. Hardy. Eat most anything. Escape artists. You have to have them in an enclosure that they can, it's got a door or a top or something on it because they will climb out. The downside is surprisingly messy.
Interesting. See, I didn't know that. Because I've never kept them.
If they, they're just messy. I'll let it go with that.
I like that. That was good. We're getting the hang of this now. That was really good.
If I walk into tortoise room, I can tell when the pancakes have been active. How's that?
Okay, now I understand a little more what you're talking about. How about star tortoise?
Beautiful. Especially if you
can. Nothing to say about star tortoises, to be honest.
Down here they're real difficult to keep because they're extremely sensitive to that runny nose syndrome, and I know many a person that's lost them. Many, and so you have to be prepared if you're going to keep star tortoises down here. You keep them out in the summer, as long as it's hot, they're fine. But as soon as it gets below like 60 degrees, and there's even a hint of rain, you need to bring them inside.
So I keep leopard tortoises, and to me, it's like, okay, I understand why this species is prolific, why they're popular. Like, they are beautiful, although they're common, but they just are like a great pet tortoise. And if you can get some that are not humongous. I think that they're really good tortoise, even more than their African cousins, the sulcatas, that are more popular and more often kept. Star tortoises are interesting, right? They're like the hot blonde that you take to prom, but then realize she's like a wet blanket and is not fun to be around, and that if you ever dated her, she'd be a lot of work. Like everybody wants them. Everybody wants them, and then you get them and you realize it's just not worth it. It's not necessarily what I thought it was. It's, you know.
I would agree with that, especially when they're little. I mean, star tortoises are the cutest little things. I'm not going anywhere near the blonde part, but
I could say that. I like brunettes. I told my wife just the other day, but when I was a young man, I used to think I liked tall blondes. I know better now. All about the short brunettes. But,
I'm not going there. But anyhow,
when I was a young man, I thought I was all about star tortoises, and now here I am keeping mud turtles.
The best.
I would agree. I would agree that the stars, especially the young ones, are awesome. But I know the little ones are real susceptible. They have pretty strict husbandry rules as far as diet and heat, and a lot of people lose them. A lot of them, sadly.
Right,
but,
right. And then people set them up in different parts of the country and then sell them, and you buy them and bring them to your area that has completely different temperature and completely different humidity, and expect them to do well. But I know that that's something that you've advocated for or against with tortoises too. Am I right?
Yeah. Again, part of my being stubborn sometimes, and I don't ever buy a tortoise from like the West Coast. Not that there's anything wrong with them on the West Coast, but if they're born and raised in an environment where there's no humidity, I mean, a good day of humidity, or an acceptable day here, is 50%. California probably hasn't seen 20% in 10 years. So, what the heck is that?
Guessing it's a siren at Anthony's place since he's outside.
It is my place. There was just a loud bang too, and then followed by a siren.
What kind of hotel are you staying in?
I'm at a really nice place. It's beautiful. It's terrific. Look at this.
That's all right.
Generator. What is that? I don't know what that is. Somebody who knows something about adulting, tell me what that green box is behind me. That's not what exploded. That's not what exploded. I can tell you that, at least.
But
electrical box?
It's an electrical box, everyone. Kevin to the rescue. I'm going to go with it. I don't know. I just know I used to play on them as a kid. I don't know what they are, though. I'm just saying. All right. Herman's tortoise. 20 seconds. Pro, con.
Bulletproof. I mean, anybody and their brother can raise them, in my opinion. The con, they eat like horses. They eat everything. Everything. Anything you put there, they'll eat.
I really like this game with you.
Is that a con or is that a pro?
It depends.
It depends. I mean, I'm almost embarrassed to tell you how I took care of my Hermans.
Well, real quick.
I'm going, what the heck?
Now we need to ask.
I just have a differentiation I want to make. Is it they just won't stop eating, they eat too much, so they're costing you more, or it's that like they'll just eat whatever they want to eat, like you put down stuff?
Both.
Okay.
They just eat. Everything you throw in there, they eat.
As much as you can. They don't stop. They're like dogs.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
Yep. You throw more in later, and they come out and eat it more.
This is why Chris has his in these huge, elaborately planted enclosures where they could eat the natural stuff, and he still has to go to the farmer's market like several times a week and just
they're like goats, man. They just
supplement.
I mean, the enclosures I had them in.
Have you gotten them in an aluminum can?
Well, I don't know about that.
It's worth a shot.
I only had 3 of them, and the enclosure I had them in was so overgrown with grass and plant. some kind of plants I put in, but the grass overgrew it, so I don't know what it was even. But they would have, as they were little, they had little tunnels. They would bury them. I think the last time you were down and saw them, they were still in the tunneling phase.
Yep.
But then as they got bigger, they started to eat everything. And it was after the winter. As soon as the weather warmed up, because I left them outside all winter, and it was cold, and it was 40 degrees and rainy and drizzly. And as soon as the weather warmed up to like 52 or something, they were out and eat. My God, would they eat everything they would eat.
That's wonderful. I love that. So cool. I can't believe that you don't have them. Sorry. Did I blow up your spot?
Again, it's back to the management thing.
Yeah.
Were they easy to take care of? Yes. But I couldn't allow myself, and I know me, I couldn't allow myself to ignore them. I just, all right, they're outside. I'll let them go for a few days. They'll be fine.
That's the best part. Like, all I want in Connecticut is species that I could put outside and ignore. Like, give me northern red bellies, give me western painted turtles, just put in a pond and just throw them out there and then never worry about them again. And maybe like 3 years from now, I'll be like, oh my gosh, I thought you died in the winter of
No. See, I can't do that.
A blizzard of 19, I thought you died in, because I haven't seen you since then. And now here I am in 2022 seeing the turtle for the first time. I love that. But see, that's what's interesting. So you bought them as hatchlings, raised them all the way up, and got them to breed, and they were entirely productive.
Yes.
In their first year of breeding, and then you're like, okay. So listen, the analogy about the hot blonde is closer than you think. This is an inappropriate comment by Anthony. I really apologize. I'm just saying, like, it's the thrill of the pursuit, right? And then you finally get there. Like Eddie Murphy joked about that. Like, I'm yours. Like, I'm all set.
Maybe that's what it was.
Right?
And I think, and this is going to sound a little bit, I don't know what the right word is, but
you can't be any less PC than I just was. So
I probably a little bit snooty on my behalf, but
definitely you are. You're definitely you're the most bougie tortoise keeper that I know.
I put an ad somewhere, and for some of the they were the Dalmatian subspecies.
Yeah, formerly a subspecies, right? They're not officially a subspecies again.
Whether it's official or not,
only in Chris Leone's eyes, yeah.
Yeah. I guess it depends on who you ask.
He gets fiery about that.
They were definitely smaller than the average Eastern hermits. I'll say that. I will absolutely say that. They were beautiful animals. They were awesome animals. I mean, they were healthy. Of course, they ate like mules, but I found that when I tried to sell the hatchlings, it was more of a hassle for me to sell a $125 hatchling than it was to sell a $750 Egyptian hatchling.
Right.
It was 3 times the work for less reward,
Interesting. But it's funny because you don't do it for the money. You don't need the money. Like when you sold the group, you didn't need the money.
And I know where they are. I know, and they're in a real nice setup. And the guy that owns them, I keep asking him. I said, you have to have eggs. If you don't have eggs, there's little babies running around. I think his problem is that he created a 30 by 30 enclosure. It's beautiful what he did. My God, if I were a tortoise, I'd want to live there. Whereas mine was much smaller. So I think there's probably nests all over the place. He just hasn't found them yet.
Right. That's really cool.
Yeah.
Cool. Okay, so talk to us about your work with the Tampa Bay. I almost called it the Clearwater. That was the former name of your organization.
Yeah.
The Tampa Bay Turtle and Tortoise Society, which
Tampa Bay Turtle, the president.
Did I say that wrong? Tampa Bay Turtle and Tortoise Society, right?
Correct.
Yep.
Yes.
And of which you are the president.
Yes.
And the secretary.
No, the treasurer.
Okay, sorry. And the treasurer. That's what it is.
I manage the money.
Ralph is not the most trusting guy out there.
You're giving me a bad rap here, you know?
No, it's all love. It's all love. You know that. It is.
Yeah, so we formed it a few years ago, and we were formerly part of another group, and primarily logistics got in the way.
Okay.
And it became tough to drive, a 5-hour round trip during the week to go to a turtle tortoise meeting, and there was just no content,
Yeah.
So at the time we elected to create a chapter of that existing organization.
When you say at the time, how long ago was this? 5 years, 10 years?
5 years, 6 years ago.
Okay.
And it went okay, but then there was some nothing personal, It was just there was some fundamental things that I just wasn't comfortable with as an organization that I wanted to be more in control of.
Mm-hmm.
So, and there was a couple underlying issues, but just little things in general. So I kind of said to the membership, how about we branch off on our own? Let's just become our own entity and create our own destiny, if you will.
Sure.
So whatever happens, it's us. And the membership agreed. And so that's what we did. We officially filed for corporate status. We became the Tampa Bay. We had to take a vote on a name. There was several names that we were kicking around, and even though we're based in Clearwater, Florida, we wanted to incorporate the whole Tampa Bay area.
Right.
So we became the Tampa Bay Turtle and Tortoise Society Incorporated. And then we also took it one step further, and we're a 501c3 tax exempt. So it's all cool. And it's working.
That's wonderful. That's wonderful.
It works when somebody gives you they want to give you a membership, which is $20 a year, and they give you a check for $100.
I love that.
Or I love what you're doing, and they just give you a check for $200. And
that's so cool.
And also, it works when I reach out to some of the big suppliers out there. We have an annual auction. It's our major fundraiser, and if I can show that we're a credible organization, and we have a credible path. We do educational programs, and we have guest speakers, and we're organized. Then these organizations love to donate to our auction.
That's awesome. That's awesome.
Yeah.
And you talked about doing educational programming.
Yeah.
Talk to me about the talks that you recently did. What was that, like 2 weeks ago that you were doing some?
A couple of weeks ago at a recreation center. And I have a buddy that does a lot of these with me, or I do them with him actually. And he's the snake guy. He's big into snakes and lizards. He hauls around these big boas and little rat snakes and what do you call those little lizards? Everybody in the world has them. I can't think of the name of them offhand now, but
bearded dragons.
Yeah, bearded dragon. Yeah.
Nailed it. Shot in the dark.
Yeah. And all these are rescues, by the way. All this stuff is all rescues that we get. And I take some turtles and tortoises, and we go and talk to the kids at summer camps. Sometimes there's 10 or 20. Sometimes there's, this one we just did, it was 2 groups, 2 separate presentations, and we had about 60 kids in each group.
That's crazy, 60 kids in each group. That's a big deal.
Yeah, we have another one coming up in another week or so. And this one was just on turtles and tortoises, the one we just did.
Okay.
The next one is going to be on snakes and lizards.
I love it. And this is at a summer camp. What type of summer camp are we
It's
talking?
called the Long Center. It's a big recreational center.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. And also
That's
at the park that I volunteer at,
Yep.
where we have our we have a turtle pond. It's about I don't know, 4,000 or 5,000 gallon outdoor turtle pond that we maintain. And there's there's a classroom there. You were in the classroom.
Yep.
You know that. Well, there's a new interpretive center, brand new building. And when they were designing it, I worked with the city to incorporate some exhibits. So we have an actual reptile room, and we have a 200-gallon freshwater turtle tank. It's full of baby turtles, little baby. Everything's baby.
What species?
All native. Red belly, yellow belly, soft shell, little Florida mud turtle. Let's see, red belly. There's a couple of map turtles. I don't know if they're native to this area. I think they're further north, but that's all right.
That's really cool.
Yeah. And then as they grow, which they do, they grow quite rapidly, actually. We put them in the pond, and the animals that are in the pond will release back into the wild.
Oh, interesting. That's cool.
Yeah, we rotate them out.
What? Tell us about membership for
The
your
club?
society. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, it's $20 a year. We have an online newsletter that goes out once a month. And I think it's a pretty good one considering. And I actually write an article for it. I call it Ralph's Ramblings.
I'm a huge fan of Ralph's Ramblings. Yeah, I read it every month.
Do you?
Yep.
Oh, gosh. I got to do that tomorrow now. That's tomorrow's project.
Yep. You're welcome for the reminder.
Yeah. And I read, it's just a one-page bunch of BS, I guess. I don't know, but it's designed to be entertaining and informative at the same time.
Yeah, that's the whole point, right? We can't take ourselves too seriously.
Yeah.
We're talking about turtles. After all, it's a very childish animal group to be obsessed with. So we're all very well connected to our inner child inside all of us, and for a lot of us, it all started, like you said, with spotted turtles in New Jersey for you.
Yeah.
It was painted turtles in Connecticut for me. We all have stories like that, but we can't take it too seriously.
What was the first turtle you ever found?
I thought you were going to say the first turtle I ever killed.
Found.
First turtle I ever found was that I ever did. So my family used to take me to catch turtles, and we used to catch painted turtles. And the first turtle I could ever remember me catching was a small snapping turtle, actually, which was really cool because we didn't find them often. So that was a big one for me. But it probably was a painted turtle, but I'm just remembering the snapping turtle because it was like a big moment because we didn't see them as often. I didn't know where to look or how to look. This painted turtles sit on a log, so it's easier to see them, you know?
I lived in northwestern New Jersey, and the first one I ever found was a wood turtle, North American wood turtle, and it was in a hole. To me, it was coming out of a hole in the ground. And so I automatically assumed that they lived in holes in the ground. In fact, it was laying eggs. Not bad for the first time you ever find something.
That's cool.
Yeah.
Did you know that at the time that it was laying eggs? Or
No. I didn't know I knew it was a turtle. I had no idea what kind it was or anything. I found out later that it was a wood turtle.
The first time I saw a turtle laying eggs was a painted turtle, and I took the eggs home and put it in a shoebox full of dry grass.
Yeah, I had the eggs in cans full of sand out on the back porch and fill up with rain.
Yeah. Oh my gosh, so
I made
funny.
all the mistakes,
Yeah, it's funny though. That's paying your dues, and John. I could think of a conversation I had with John Weir, who's like the co-creator of the Pondcast and one of my absolute best friends in the world. we would have conversations about that. And I think it was a podcast episode, like, I don't know, like one of the first 10, where like, how many turtles did you torture unknowingly, or keep neglect or keep in a poor way unknowingly in your younger years, and was it worth having like a lifelong turtle advocate now as because of that? So like is it worth the turtles that Peter Pritchard found and threw into a shoebox as a kid for him to grow up to be Peter Pritchard and
I
save and
was always
advocate for
pretty,
turtles, right?
other than a lack of education as a kid, I was always pretty much into turtles. We didn't have many tortoises, of course, living in New Jersey, but I mean, I had them all. I built a pond when I was probably about 16 out of cement, like a swimming pool, and I had a drain and everything in it, and I was real proud of myself the way it came out. Of course,
I'm sure you did. I'm not surprised.
It was awesome, But what I didn't know was I painted it with that aqua blue swimming pool paint they used to use back then,
Yep.
So you could see everything real good. But what I didn't understand was the thermoregulation aspect of it. And we had well water, so I would fill this thing up with well water and throw all these little turtles in there, and they'd all kind of just lay there floating, and I couldn't figure out why they didn't swim around. Well, the well water's about 60 degrees.
Yeah.
Yeah, I about shocked them all half to death, but you'll learn that stuff.
Right. Eventually.
That's
funny. You're building elaborate ponds with draining systems in the concrete at age 16.
Yeah,
you're like Picasso. You mastered the craft at age 16. It's awesome.
I've been doing this a long time.
Yeah, that's what I mean. 16 was a while ago. No offense.
Yeah, tell me about it.
It was for me too.
But I always had, box turtles and wood turtles and painted turtles and mud turtles. Back in the day, we used to have the little bog turtles. We used to get them.
Bog turtles, as in BOG turtles?
Muhlenberg.
Yeah, when you were young, those were common around you?
Yeah, yep.
Where did you grow up, Ralph?
I'm not going to tell you now. No.
It's one of
Northwestern New Jersey, Warren County, New Jersey.
Okay, I didn't realize you were a New Jersey guy.
Yeah.
Okay, cool.
Steve was
I figured it had to be North Carolina. Western North Carolina, New Jersey, Pennsylvania, or Eastern Tennessee. So
yeah. We had bog turtles everywhere.
Yeah, those were the days.
Used to find them in farm pastures.
Yeah,
cattle, and there's always a low corner in a pasture. It's a wonder it didn't get squished to death because this cattle would stomp all through it. I mean, all bug infested crap, but there would be this little bog turtle about 3 inches long plugging away,
That's crazy cool.
Yeah. Yep. Back in the day.
If you knew then what you know now.
Right? Yeah, well, back to the
Could have stood there like the Lorax.
Yeah.
And made them chop you down instead of the tree.
Yeah.
Right? Just saying. Well, I tell you, Ralph, it's always fun talking to you, having you on the show. Your insights are wonderful. And for anyone who doesn't know, you can look back at the past podcast where Ralph and I were actually live from his tortoise room, which is a converted garage. Or you can see some of the YouTube videos as well where we visited Ralph. And to say that he's meticulous is an understatement. He takes everything very seriously, which is inspiring, honestly. And he's someone who I think, and we think, that we all should emulate as much as we can. That you really put a lot of thought into what you do. And, we chose turtles and tortoises, one of the most endangered vertebrate groups on the planet. So with that comes a certain level of duty and responsibility that we need to do everything that we can to do it the right way. This is not something that we should just be doing willy-nilly because the people that were doing it willy-nilly when we were kids, what we're talking about, could have had a real detriment and helped lead to the situation we're in today. So let's do everything we can now in this day and age where the animals need it even more, and where we have tools like the internet we're using right now to broadcast and teach people about the plight of turtles and tortoises. Let's do everything we can to be like Ralph and keep animals the right way, and be particular about who keeps those animals, and go the extra mile to educate other people, and just do everything you can to make the world a better place for turtles and tortoises. Ralph,
I think that's well said. You know,
any closing statements?
Yeah, very well said. You know, I do what I do because I have a passion for it. You know, I wish that in a perfect world, I could take all these little Egyptian babies and release them into the wild. That would give me immense gratification. I know that's unrealistic, but that's how I think. And we all need to do our very best to ensure, sadly, in a captive bred environment, that we do the best for them, because it's really their only future.
Amen.
You know?
Amen. So I just flipped back and looked, since you mentioned the last podcast Ralph was on again. So if anybody wants to go watch and see some of Ralph's Egyptian habitats up close and personal, that was episode 33. So go into our channel, search for the Pondcast episode 33, and you can wander through another evening with Ralph. Hard to believe that was 21 episodes ago.
2.5 years. It was early March 2017. It's amazing. It seemed like it was yesterday.
Ralph, thank you for joining us tonight. We're really glad to have you, and we'll try to have you again in the future when the camera's working. Good news, bad news. This is the last time we're going to use this technology setup for the podcast, since YouTube is, well, not YouTube, but Google is putting the kibosh on it. So all of our loyal viewers out there, hopefully we'll be ready for you on September 9th. Kevin and I are going to try to make sure we are. Keep your fingers crossed. Keep your prayers up there if you prefer that method. Whatever it is you do to get good luck, we need them to make sure we can bring an episode to you on September 9th. All right? Anthony, anything else you want to finish with, or is it time to get going?
I apologize for the gentleman who's out here on the patio with me talking on the phone. He's very excited. And I also apologize to him because he's talking on the phone and probably hearing me scream about turtles and tortoises. So it's awkward. Those are my closing statements. Thank you, Steve. Appreciate the opportunity to say it.
All right. Thank you, Anthony.
I want to add really quick for the people that are watching, the people that do watch after the fact. If you have ideas of stuff you want us to go over on the podcast, or you have ideas for guests, maybe you know somebody that would be a great guest, reach out to us. All of our emails are online. You can reach us pretty much all on Facebook or Instagram. I'm not really sure exactly which the best route to go is, but we're open to ideas. We want to bring, entertainment to you guys as well as educational information, and looking forward to doing more shows with you guys.
Well said, buddy.
All right.
Appreciate you.
Thank you, guys.
for joining us.
Yeah, Ralph, thank you.
Thanks, Ralph. Love you, man.
Also,
All right. Thanks for joining us, everybody.
I love the name
Have
Ralph.
a good night.